Hi, I'm Chris Somerville and welcome to Geekified. In Geekified, me, your host Chris Somerville, will be having a discussion with some of my friends regarding news that has just broken in the DC Universe and the MCU. When I speak to my guests, whether it be Sean Welke, Tony McGeever, or anyone else who decides to speak on the show, they've absolutely no idea what I'm going to discuss with them. The topic that we will be discussing is something that has just broken, something that has just been released, or something that has just been revealed to be part of an upcoming film or an upcoming project to do with the MCU or DCU. The reason I decided to do Geekified was we didn't really find any good discussion platforms where me, myself, and my friends had anyone who were discussing something that had just broken, and there was none of that chat available. There was no one anywhere who was discussing the upcoming topics or discussing something that had just been revealed or even discussing something that just happened after a film. And we thought the chat was really, really good and really interesting, and anyone who ever joined our company said the chat was relatively interesting as well, how in depth we got about certain subjects and certain topics. So that's why I've started this channel. In the future, I do open to have other subcategories and other parts of the channel to do with television, to do with movies, to do with other geeky things like comics, etc., and even talk about things like Funko Pops when they get released, and chase Funko Pops, and why we're so limited edition. Lots of topics that we can discuss in future episodes, so hopefully you'll stay with us for that. We're going to go straight into episode 1, where I'll be speaking to Tony McGeever.
Hi guys, my name's Tony McGeever. I am an actor and writer and hugely massive Marvel fan of the comic books and also the cinematic universe. I also have interests in anything that is geeky. So as you can see, it could be Star Wars, or it could be the Marvel world, or it could just be kick-ass films. Yeah, that's me.
So, purposely for the first time for our first show, because we're trying out different things, Tony has absolutely no idea what topic that I'm going to introduce. Both myself and Tony are quite massive fans of MCU and fans of any of the kind of comic book world and films. So we do have generally a decent knowledge for what's coming up, but we're going to try on our first one to discuss something that is very, very new. So Tony will not know a huge amount of what I'm about to introduce and tell him about, because it's only been relevant for the past couple of days. So what has happened in the past couple of days, I hear you ask. What's happened in the past couple of days is we have had the Zack Snyder cut be introduced into the beautiful world of cinema. So everybody can't wait for that. But we're not going to talk about the Zack Snyder cut. What we're actually going to talk about is what happened after the Zack Snyder cut was introduced. We are going to talk about David Ayer. David Ayer was the director of Suicide Squad. Now, Zack Snyder, for at least a couple of years, has been very, very active in discussing and moving forward with his idea of his cut and what he wanted to do with the film. Within the last couple of days, that has been announced, and HBO Max will be showing that show. I think it's going to be a 6-part season because it's quite a long production when it goes together. So what's happened after that is David Ayer has now came on Twitter and has actively pushed forward for his cut of Suicide Squad to be released. Now, the question that I'm putting forward to Tony is, when does fandom become too much, when the fans get to push forward their ideas rather than the studios? So the whole situation of what's happening is the director has put forward what his idea was, the studios cut it, and now the fans are pushing back for what they actually want because they want to see the cut. And I would like to discuss with Tony of what he thinks about that.
Absolutely love this question, and it's quite recently I've been, because I watch a lot of Hollywood actors roundtables just for my own personal interest and development as an actor and industry. But the last 2 weeks I've been looking at the producers and directors roundtables and executive producers. So I've been looking and listening from people head of Amazon, Netflix, Disney, Um, so I think what my true honest opinion is you've got to think of why these films are getting made. And these films, initially the idea comes around because they do have a strong fandom base. And in turn, that really just turns into money. So I think, and as a creative person, and if I go on to make any films in my career, the producers that I want to be involved need to be creative producers, people who are sort of like pencil pushers who don't have any creativity or any interest in the subject. I don't think they've got a right to do any cuts, and we've seen this more and more often recently, with the birth of social media, and using things like YouTube and Instagram as sort of a platform that studios are using to get a gauge on quite early on how successful the film is. And we've actually seen this with Suicide Squad matched with Guardians of the Galaxy. Guardians of the Galaxy, again, I can put hands down, I could probably go round that probably, again, I'm just making a figure, but I bet you a lot of people did not have a clue who the hell the Guardians of the Galaxy were. And when that slate got put up, people were going, what, that's Marvel's next film? Who are these people? But then once they dropped the trailer, the first trailer, Guardians of the Galaxy, with the most amazing soundtrack ever, everyone was going, oh, this is amazing, this is amazing. And then on the other side, you had sort of the DC going, right, we need to match that. And it's all about, you don't need to match that, you need to stick to your creativity. And I think fans come first. Fans have to come first, because they're the real reason of why things get made. So and the directors who get chosen are people who are, I think one of the best directors ever is Jon Favreau, because he is a massive fanboy. And if you look at what he did with Iron Man, he literally gave birth to what Marvel is, because from the first
sweet.
Yeah, like from the first Iron Man, you just knew straight. Even from that, you were like, this is someone who knows that character inside out. You know, his history, what the fanboy. He just got it to a perfect T. And then what he's done with recently, with Star Wars on the Disney Channel with the Mandalorian. Again, you watch that, and again, it's a character that no one really knows. And again, it's just pure it's just perfect balance.
Just to counter your argument, for argument's sake, so you've basically stated that Jon Favreau is a huge person that knew everything about what he was making. So how did you feel about the Joker film?
Well, I think with the Joker film, again, that was something that had literally lost legs. It was tired. I don't think people were tired of the character of Joker, because we've seen amazing reincarnations of it from amazing actors. But in terms of people were really tired of what the studio system, Warner Brothers, were churning out and the way they were doing things. And they were like, and it took a separate sort of, a separate mind, a separate headspace for someone to go, right, we need to look at this at a different way.
Yeah, so I agree with you when you're saying when it comes to looking at it a different way. But if you're saying that Jon Favreau is a director who knows quite a lot about the fandom, the director of Joker is Todd Phillips, who previously directed things like The Hangover. Mm-hmm. So someone coming from next to no experience working with the comic book world and next to no interest in it takes on board a film that is part of the comic book world, which goes on to win, I think it's 15 Academy Awards, 15 awards, huge awards across the world. So how do you make the understanding of a director and who you bring in to do a job? Is it solely down to the studios? So the studios are coming in and taking away from the director and changing things, and the studios are the ones who are maybe not in touch with the characters, or do you still feel that it really is down to directors?
Well, I think it should be, but if you kind of go back, like Todd Phillips and Jon Favreau, they were making those films not from a studio point of view. Because people forget that Marvel were their own separate studio. They weren't a big, massive studio as they were now, and they were able to choose who they wanted to a degree. And same with Todd Phillips. Todd Phillips was making that film, almost like an art house film, from, and it wasn't coming from the studio's point of view of like, this needs to make this amount of money.
Yeah.
And again, that's the studio's, the producer's faults, putting that. So Todd Phillips was able, in a way, without the restraints from a massive studio, being able to create something fresh and something art house that we needed. And hopefully, and maybe that was maybe the first domino effect of why people want these, these cuts out.
So do you think that what's happening now with the cuts of not Suicide Squad, sorry, do you think with the cuts of Snyder's cut is going to affect what happens with David Ayer's Suicide Squad? Do you think that is something that's actually going to go ahead?
I hope so, because from what I've read, what I've seen, all interviews, if a lot of people, unfortunately, if people don't know, like Snyder had a bereavement in the family. When he was making that film, and he had to obviously like come away from the film.
Yeah.
And so I think on that aspect, I think that is an example. I think he, if things, unfortunately, what happened to him, if that would have been a much different movie than it was going to be.
Yeah.
But the studio had to come in and finish it off because a lot of money was in.
Do you think that the studio made a mistake of perhaps using somebody, even though anyone who's a comic book fan knows that the DC comics always has had a darker tone than anything Marvel of any of the other comics. It's always been a bit darker and a bit grittier. Do you think they made a mistake by having someone like Zack Snyder taking over, moving from films like 300, etc., and moving into a film like this, who's going to bring his dark tone, do a third of the movie, and then hire someone like Josh Whedon, who came in, who is very light-hearted, loves his jokes, and a very Buffy-style humour? Do you think that was a bit of a mistake by the studios to have a clash of directors' styles?
I think when they hired Josh, I don't think they were really hiring him to finish an actual direct the film. I think they were like, we need the safest pair of hands to finish this as quickly as possible, and who's the most experienced director that we've got right now, who's one probably available, and if even I would, if that list came on and I needed someone to finish it off, and if who was available, Josh would always be number. If he's available, you would probably get him in to finish something off, because he's a safe pair of hands. So I think one, obviously they were risking and banking on it. What they should have done, the studios, they should have. Again, this is where, the business side comes off it. They had a release date that they had to hit, or they were going to lose a lot of money. But if I was them, I would have just canned it for a little bit and waited for the next year when Zack was able to come back and finish it.
I think the R-rated idea of the film has been a bit of an issue with how films have gone forward. With Joker coming out being very R-rated and quite graphic in some scenes, it came across, and again, like I said, won 15 huge awards, especially with Joaquin Phoenix winning awards for his performance in it as well. But do you think that this is the first time that you've seen such a realistic but graphic take on something of the superhero world being made into a film? And then given the fact that we now have David Ayer, who recently made a comment to say on a couple of the shots, he says it was dark. He made a quote to say the Joker was terrifying in a scene and Harley was complex, which is not what we've seen when we watched Suicide Squad. So do you think that having the R-rated performance coming through from Todd Phillips' Joker is now setting the stone, given what's happened with the Zack Snyder cut? Do you think the allowability of having R-rated comic book films, that's what's kind of led the way and led the path to possibly getting the Ayer cut?
100%, especially I would probably throw in Deadpool with that as well. And there's definitely, again, I was reading and listening on how the film industry is changing quite drastically, and especially what's happening now with COVID. And if you wanted to, your film had to get a cinematic release, and now you don't really, because you've got platforms like Amazon, Netflix, Disney Plus, and things like that. So you've got a wider audience now. But I think there's a select audience that if you want to, you know, and it kind of goes down to, you know, our tolerances as a society and what we're prepared to see now on film. And I think every year we get more tolerant of what we can consume. So sometimes, you know, we want more blood, we want more violence, or we want more like realism in a character.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's what we're pushing, you know, because now studios can afford. So studios will normally slate about 20 films a year to make. But now what I've recently saying that they'll probably slate about 15 films that they know that they'll make money back, and then on 5 now they'll take a risk. So one of those 5 will be that dark noir, you know, R-rated film.
Yeah.
Because R-rated films used to be a big massive thing in like the 70s and 60s, and so it's kind of good that we're kind of going back to that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much everything I had to ask on that subject. That's pretty cool. So we're going to go over to. I'm going to cut it here, Tony, just so you know. Cool. So I start rambling.
Great question. I could keep going talking about that question.
It's going to go to another wee section that I'm going to introduce when it's going to just talk about me talking about the next subject. And at the end of the topic, I'm going to ask you the question. So it comes up in as I go over it. Yeah. So it's a little bit more lighthearted. It's just something else that's appeared, I think it was yesterday morning, with a couple of rumblings from different studios. The topic is going to be Spider-Man 3. So, what's been announced and what happened on Instagram, which I've summarised in the wee insert, is the character of J. Jonah Jameson, who appeared at the end of Spider-Man 2. J.K. Simmons has announced accidentally that he's signed up for 2 sequels. So the question that I've got is not particularly about the Spider-Man 3, it's about the character of J. Jonah Jameson being played by J.K. Simmons. So the question is, how do you feel about a completely different world from Spider-Man 1 and Spider-Man 2 being from Tom Holland, introducing a character that was present and is exactly the same that was in the first original Spider-Man?
It's Mr. Simmons. He can do whatever he wants. He's one of the... he can be in any film he wants. He's an incredible actor, and yes, you know, I think it's fine. Reason being is, you know, it's where you draw these imaginary lines in the multi-universe, you know, or different studio versions, you know, and obviously, I think Spider-Man's obviously probably the only franchise film that's moved studios in a way. But yeah, I like it, sort of tying it back together, and we'll see, a lot of people will see that there's been, you know, like we can even go as far back as like Chris Evans, you know, playing Human Torch and then playing Captain America, Lawrence Fishburne playing the Silver Surfer, the voice, and then being in Ant-Man and the Wasp as Goliath. And even, I've forgotten her name. She was in Captain Marvel. What's her name? Damn, and her name, English actress. She's in Crazy Rich Asians. But she's for the first time, she'll be playing 2 different characters in the same universe.
Yeah.
So again, I think that's fine. Sure. I'm 100%. I'm fine with that. And I think if they were to cast someone else, people will go, but he's not as good as Simmons, is he? So that's probably what he's amazing, you know.
I think that the initial reason why I asked the question is there's been a lot of fan speculation, given that the film that Spider-Man 3 is very likely to tie into is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Mm-hmm.
Recently, or just on the past couple of days as well, a lot of the theories has turned in, and the multiverse of madness being slightly tied in. But one of the indicators was the J. Jonah Jameson. There's been rumours that Tobey Maguire, given that the Doctor Strange movie is going to be filmed by Sam Raimi, there's a lot of rumours that Tobey Maguire has been in discussions with Sam Raimi about making a Spider-Man performance show up in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and which also led to a few videos that I watched with speculation talking about why it is that it's J. Jonah Jameson played by J.K. Simmons that you've seen. So they're discussing the fact that has a rift already been set off, has something to do with the blip already caused some sort of a multiverse to expand and people aren't fully aware of different things.
If that's the case, you know, it's if they're able to pull that off, then why the hell can they not get Hugh Jackman to be Wolverine?
That's a topic for a different day, I think.
You know, but it's just like if they're and him, you know, you've got to look at his. That would just be awesome. That would be really cool, and it would be for Maguire. You know, as an actor, you know, would he want to do that? Is that him kind of saying, "Yeah, you know, I thought he was a great. I think all the Spider-Mans have been great." But is that him saying, you know, that you know your version?
I think that what the discussion that I read this morning, one of the video clips, was that Sam Raimi never got to say goodbye to Spider-Man because in one of his Spider-Man films, there's a bit where we talk about Doctor Strange, and Sam Raimi had said that if he knew he was going to go on in the future to make a Doctor Strange film, he would have laid more Easter eggs across that performance, but hindsight's a beautiful thing. But he did actually mention Doctor Strange, one of the characters in the original Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire.
And it's probably like we don't know, like with the deal, you know, like the ownership of like if he wrote, I don't know if Raimi wrote some of the script as well, because it's these contracts are so complex. So he in some way still might own some part of the Spider-Man franchise that Marvel want.
Yeah.
Or need. And he went, well, you can't use that because I've already used that, and so it'd be cool if they could do that, because then that would really be really, really cool, because then that would be awesome.
Yeah, I think a lot of the fans were questioning why it was J.K. Simmons was playing J. Jonah Jameson again, which is obviously that weird. Everyone was like, "Oh, it's J. Jonah Jameson." Everyone was happy that he's back, but then it doesn't really make sense when you're now on your third Spider-Man of that world. Yeah,
unless they make a little joke reference when he comes in and works, you know, so the newspaper goes, "Oh, I thought you were taller," or "You look different today," you know, or like you know something really, you know, like you know. Or like really, what happened to the last boy or something like that. But
I really enjoyed the theories talking about like the multiverse thing coming with Doctor Strange being some sort of twist on the fact that it was him. Thought it was very interesting. That's why I put it forward to you.
But then it'll probably be, knowing them, it'll probably be much cheaper for them to use old footage.
Yeah.
And redo it.
Yeah. He is a fantastic actor. He's amazing in everything that he does.
Yeah.
And it would be, as it says, he has leaked on Instagram that he is there for another 2 sequels.
But then,
so you'll definitely see him twice.
I would be knowing, well, we all know Marvel, you know, we think they're showing us this, and then bang. So maybe he's not playing that character, maybe he's playing someone else.
Yeah.
And he's not, like, his credit, let's just say his went up sky, you know, after Whiplash, you know?
Yeah.
He's like huge, you know. He's like leading actor, leading baddie or something, or.
I think he deserves it. It would be great because he got to play Commissioner Gordon, and yeah. So that was a great one.
Yeah.
So it's just, I think he was very underused. Is the best thing I would say for that film.
Yeah.
He was possibly one of the best Commissioner Gordons that you've ever seen, and they never got a chance to actually use him.
Yeah, to move on, I know.
Hopefully, fingers crossed, it's in the next cut.
Yeah.
And the last one, we've got a few minutes left before we have to go, is A little bit extra information popped up this morning from, I believe it was a Cosmic Wonder on YouTube, discussing more information that's coming forward to prove that Secret Invasion looks like the next 10-year arc for the MCU. How do you feel about that, given it was such a hot topic in Captain Marvel, given the end of it, which changed everything? And some of the information that came, I think it was Mickey Sutton that released some information we're talking about on Cosmic Wonder, which basically plays along for the storyline from Secret Invasion of new characters that will be introduced, which will push forward the idea of that being the arc. How do you feel about Secret Invasion potentially being the next 10-year arc?
One, I don't think it will be.
Okay.
And I don't think it's strong enough arc for anything. And with Eternals coming out and stuff, I think it'll be something based on it, but not a full, you know. I think it's not really going to be Earth based anymore. It's all going to be cosmic.
You definitely think Kevin did say that. He did say in the last one that the future of the MCU is going to be cosmic.
It's all and I think Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is about to finish up, and there's a new series. I don't know what it's about, but basically, good old Samuel Jackson. He'll be in space, but like in a little sort of space center.
Yeah.
I don't know if so that's coming out. And I think everything's focusing. It's all going to be cosmic.
But we do have the series Sword.
Yeah, Sword. That's what it is. Sword. Yeah, so that's coming. So which is more cosmic based. So, and I think when that comes out, that's going to be a massive shift to what then we'll really know.
Yeah.
Because rumor has it, what I've heard is the Eternals they've always been on Earth, but they've never known that they've had the powers. They think they're just normal people. And this blip, the flick, rewoken them up. So I think that in a way is kind of a sort of similar tiny secret invasion in a way that they've never known. But I think it's all going to be cosmic. Guardians of the Galaxy all the way. As Guardians of the
I do hope that, I think given everything that had happened with Captain Marvel and kind of using a very, very, very small part of the whole idea of Secret Invasion, I do hope to still use it at some point, but I don't see it being a 10-year arc. I think we need to bring in, it's a topic of discussion for our next video, which I'm going to ask you, so I'm not going to bring it in, but there's another couple of characters that have seemed to have been leaked a bit. I'm not going to tell you because it's a question for the next video, which does tie in a little bit with it, with the next arc of what I think it's actually going to be. But I hope they don't drop the entire Secret Invasion storyline altogether and leave it now. I hope, because it is a great story.
Yeah, it's good, but I think they kind of burnt it out a little bit, or with Captain Marvel in a way, and it was, it would have been better if they were always there in Captain Marvel, which we thought they were going to go with. Yeah, but they didn't. So
Captain Marvel was quite polarizing on the basis of it did well financially. Critics were okay. A lot of fans didn't seem to like it, given whatever reason they wanted to give for it, which is their own idea for what they think the film should be. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was an enjoyable film. I thought it was good. But I hope that that's not just a little snippet of the entire story that they've used so far.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's it for our first video. Thank you very much, Tony, for joining.
Thank you.
I hope to see everyone else in the next couple of days, where we will be putting up our first competition as well. We'll be introducing Tony back, and hopefully in the next couple of videos we will have another member of our Geekified team joining us for a 3-parter. So thank you very much, man. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Done.